What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome to episode 8 of Sunday Morning Conversation, where we talk to content creators, large, small, and everywhere in between, about the trading card, business, and Pokemon space. If you want to be in a future episode of Sunday Morning Conversation, feel free to email me in the description below or message me on Instagram. Today, we have a guy I've wanted to talk to for a long time. I've seen a lot of his content leading up to and into me starting my content journey, and is one of the most positive people I've come across. Please welcome Rawr TCG to the show. Rawr, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Bronze. Again, I'm just so honored to be here and be able to chat with you, dude. So I'm looking forward to this talk.
So just so everyone knows, he said again because your boy, even though he's done 7 episodes, forgot to hit the record button. So now that we got this going finally, we can get this started in a more positive direction. But the first question I did want to ask was, where did your journey start in just collecting, selling, and what got you into content creation in general?
Yeah, like such a good question. I really appreciate that. I'm a 90s kid, so I was around at the advent of Pokemon really hitting the world stage. It started with the video games. There's a whole crew of us on the street where I lived. We would all get together with our Game Boys and play. And then when the cards released, I had a friend. It was 3 brothers, lived about half a mile down the road, and sometimes we would walk down there. But their dad was like so in tune with collectibles. And their dad taught them to take care of their cards. They had like the 3-ring binders of a full base set. And I just remember looking at that and just being in awe at that time. And we didn't realize what that would have entailed and what that would have meant today. So I don't know if those cards still exist in that format and they're still in that pristine condition, but if they are, that's amazing. I've kind of fallen out of communication with them. That was like kind of elementary school friends. But I remember I look back at that time and I'm like, man, their dad had it. Like he saw something special and he had it in terms of collecting and keeping things safe. For me, my journey, the best card I ever pulled was a holo Vaporeon. And I traded it, I think, for 5 uncommons and commons in the school bus one day to a good friend of mine. I got swindled right there, but I'll never forget that. I know a lot of us have stories like that well from our childhood. But I thought I was getting a good deal. I was thinking 5 cards for 1 card. I'm winning, like that's awesome. But fast forward through high school, I played, I say competitively at the lunch table. We played Pokemon. We would play Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot. I played Dark Magician, a Dark Magician deck back in the day. And so that's where like my love of trading cards really grew out of. And so, yeah, so I was really into trading cards. And then fast forward, I was a pastor for about 12 years. And so I was really deep into that. And I've always had this itch to start something for myself. And so around the time that my wife and we had our second child, I pivoted away from ministry, jumped into tech. And that opened up, it actually opened up more time for me because being in ministry, being in the church world, you're just constantly busy. Like my weekends were taken all throughout the week and everything. And so I had this additional time. It was right around the time that 151 released, of course, just kind of an injection back to the nostalgia of my childhood. And dude, my kids and we ripped packs so much. Like I remember going into Costco's and you would see Pokemon on fire sale. There would be these 510s. It would be a pack of SV Base and Silver Tempest. And I was picking those up for like $19 before tax. It was like right over $2 per pack.
Yeah,
and we ripped everything. I mean, just probably dozens and dozens of packs there. I pulled nothing from Silver Tempest, by the way, so I have a really love-hate relationship with Sword and Shield because of the pull rates. But we had so much fun. It was really around the time that Twilight Masquerade came out. I had been consuming Alpha Investments content. I had been consuming Poke&E content, Bulk Kings, Rob from RNG Games, Mason from like all the greats, right? Like I had been consuming all their content for over a year at that time. And they just like, I would hear some of them talking about bulk and how that was just such an easy on-ramp into experiencing the business side of what trading cards was. And so the itch to start my own thing, plus my love of trading cards, plus this easier low cost on ramp that I could start with low, like a low amount of capital, because I didn't want to tie up like family funds into it. I
Sure.
just wanted to set aside a certain amount, jump in. So I set aside $1,000, and that's when it all got started, man. So that's half of your question, and then the other half is the content creation, which is a really fun journey for me. So I really jumped into content creation hard during COVID. Actually, I was still a pastor at the time, and what I noticed was there was a lot of like people were just uneasy during COVID for obvious reasons. And so what I did is I started TikTok was obviously huge at the time too. So I started TikTok, and I started putting out content, and I would just answer people's questions about God, faith, the Bible, the world, and I would do it in a short form format. So like at the time, 15-second videos were super hot. So if I could answer it in 15 seconds, I would. If it took me a minute, I would. But I would tackle any topic that was asked, because I really felt like there was a lack of just straight to the point answers in that realm of faith and everything. A lot of times, if you sit down with somebody that is super dedicated in their faith, no matter what religion or whatever it is, you try to have a conversation with them, and they're not intentionally speaking over your head, but they're using a different kind of vernacular and vocabulary. So like I'll sit down as a Christian and be like, well, let me tell you about reconciliation. Let me tell you about all this other stuff that Jesus did for me. And like you've never heard those words in your life because maybe you'd never been inundated in that world. And so what I really pushed myself to do was to speak on a like super basic level, to a point where anybody could understand. And I've always been a proponent of, I think that like I don't want to get too deep into the religious
Sure.
side, but it is a big impact for me. But I've always been a big fan of just like, if I can't explain something to you by writing it down on a napkin, it's probably too complex. And so if I can just break everything down into a like napkin note format, then I'm good to go. Whether that's trading card business stuff or that's something deeper like faith stuff. So that was my approach. Long story short is I grew that TikTok to about 50,000 followers during COVID, which is pretty
Not
awesome.
bad.
Had a couple, yeah. I had a couple of videos kind of like go semi-viral and stuff like that as well, and it was really cool. But my disconnect there was just deep down. I couldn't bring myself to like really fully monetize that and press into it as a business, because it was just really hard for me from like the faith aspect to like bridge that gap and start to look at it monetarily. Um, so I couldn't do that for me personally. And so as I got more into tech and more into that kind of realm, as we had our second child, I moved away from that channel. I still post occasionally over there and still answer a couple questions here and there. But yeah, I just had this, I just couldn't dive into it that way. So from there, I dove into Twitch. I streamed Among Us and Fortnite, and I would play with viewers. And for a little while there, I was doing that like basically 5 or 6 days a week. I would do that. It was super fun. Um, but yeah, all that to say is all that experience led up to where I'm at today with Rawr TCG, how I'm able to communicate and speak in front of a camera. All that was just built off of like thousands of previous experiences on TikTok, and obviously being a pastor, you speak in front of people. So just
Mhm.
getting more comfortable. So I also studied music in college. So I was a vocal performance major. So I would sing and do opera and, sing arias and blah, blah, blah. But a big part of that is like recording yourself and
Yeah.
getting comfortable with your own voice. And for the first semester of my freshman year with my vocal coach, she would just have me record myself, and I would literally yell in her office. It was to get better breath control, a better understanding of my voice and how big it was and controlling that. And I hated listening back to myself, but I'm so thankful for all the hours I listened to myself holler literally in her office, because that made me more comfortable just hearing myself speak. So
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting. I mean, it's a great story, and it's great to hear where you came from. But it also goes to show, like, when you want to start something, it's really important that you just start. Because yes, it's going to probably be bad or maybe not up to par with the people that you watch. I mean, even when I originally started this channel, it was to chronicle my weight loss journey from like 3 years ago that had some success and then stopped. But when I look back at the thumbnails I had and like how out of focus things were and the color grade, I mean, I could not believe anyone actually clicked the button to watch that. But from that, it bred a little bit of easiness into, okay, well, it's not as bad as you think it is. Catastrophizing, which is easily my number one problem that I have, it made it easier and easier to say, okay, well, it's not as bad, it's not as bad. And anything you do, you're not going to go from 0 to 100. You have to go in small steps. So whether that's getting comfortable on camera, getting comfortable selling cards, this, that, the other, it's important that whenever you feel the urge to do something, to at least start doing anything towards that. And I'm glad you did, because you have some amazing, amazing stuff. Now, what I want to ask next, because I did not know that you were a pastor before, and to me, it makes a lot of sense now how you kind of carry yourself and talk, very similar to when I spoke to TJ, and how, you know, absolutely, I don't think I've ever seen you have a bad day, or like there's like negativity does not exist in the aura around you. It is a problem I have, and I know people in my stream have told me that sometimes I'm too hard on myself, and I've caught myself negative talking about how much I don't like my job and this, that, the other. And I've really, really, really been trying hard to embrace the power of positive thinking, which sounds like a very big cliche, but I'm starting to notice differences in how much I knock out the negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts on any spectrum, that it just makes my day better. How did you get to that? Do you still have bad days? How do you deal with not only the negative thoughts that come throughout the day on your personal life, but the business side? Because everyone knows that does this hobby or profession, there's not a lot of days that are fun, especially when you're doing it on the grind like us.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely still have bad days, for sure. And I would say that my personality, just who I am, I'm much more cynical than maybe it comes off in general. And a lot of that is just, I think, probably from my life experience and stuff. Um, but what I've grown to embrace, like there is definitely a like faith aspect of it. But I think that what my experience in how I operate in my faith and my relationship with Jesus or whatever, I have learned to accept the uncontrollables in life. Like there are certain things that have either happened to me in my past that have not been great, or that will happen tomorrow, because tomorrow's a whole new day with a whole new struggle. And one thing that's guaranteed, I like to say, is that life has a tendency to roundhouse kick us in the throat every day. Like that we can expect that to happen, right? And so now that I know that that's an uncontrollable, and that there will always be pain and struggle, in the forecast, I can at least accept the uncontrollables, and I can do everything in my power to have agency and impact what is controllable. And so something like that would be my outlook on my job. I can't control what happens when I get to the office, but I can control my attitude as I walk in the door, kind of thing. I can't control how many emails I'll get today of people that say negative things about their orders that they received from my bulk, or people that claim that an order never arrived. But I can control how I respond to that. And so oftentimes, what I honestly do is, if I get a really heated message, I actually just experienced this on eBay for the first time. Somebody was super unhappy with the way that I packed their order. And what I do is, sometimes I'll even draft out an entire message that's super mean. Okay, this sounds so ridiculous. I'll write it all out, all my thoughts. Their card was perfect. It was shipped safely. It was shipped on time, and they received it.
Yeah.
But they weren't happy that I used a team bag with some tape on it. You know what I mean? They wanted me to use a card saver. They really, really wanted me to use that card saver. Um, and so I'll draft up the entire email, and then I'll delete it. And I think that that's something that I think Abraham Lincoln's even credited for back in the day, is he had a couple generals that didn't follow his orders directly, and he would write letters to them of just like ripping them apart, of like, how dare you not do X, Y, and Z. And it's at least the story I heard was that he never sent those letters. They would just stay in his nightstand unsent,
Interesting.
and he would never allow that to leave that space. But he had that space. He vented, and so I like to do the same.
I might actually. I'm probably going to start using that because definitely at work and stuff. Yeah, you definitely. I mean, especially on the retail side of things, there's so many people that just for no reason will just blow up on you. And as much as someone might not admit, you are in full control of your emotions and you choose how to react. And yeah, that you actually just kind of gave me a euphoric moment there where that's actually a pretty solid advice for anyone out there, and especially me. When it comes to the business, how much do you do with Pokemon and Magic? Is it 50-50? Is it 75-25?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Especially since a lot of like bulk content out there is surrounded around Pokemon. I actually do more Magic. So I would say it's probably like 60-40. But then I also branched out into other TCGs. I'm sure you do too, but I've dabbled with Flesh and Blood. I really like Riftbound, to be honest. I like Riftbound, and I even really enjoy Godzilla. Like that's the like weird curveball that typically people don't expect. But I sell a lot of Godzilla bulk. On
Interesting.
Tcgplayer. Yeah.
How old is the Godzilla thing? Is that really recent?
It's a newer TCG, so I
Okay.
think set 4 is coming out this next month. So, but yeah, what happened, honestly, the way I got into it is I had been wanting Riftbound Origin boxes for my collection for so long. And Rudy did a sell. But to get the Riftbound box, you had to pick up like 12 Godzilla boxes. And I was like, I'm just doing it. I'll open the Godzilla. I don't care how much I make or lose. I'm just gonna go for it.
Interesting. Yeah. So the reason why I was asking is because I realized, I think for the most people who've watched my content, how much bulk has meant to me and getting my financial situation in order, paying off some debt and this, that, the other. And I get so enthralled in it that I, to my own detriment, don't pay attention to some of the bigger stuff. Case in point, and I'm actually doing a video on it in a couple of days. I was doing my finances and I have enough coming in and out, but I was like, man, where is this money that I know I have? And I had been setting aside all these cards for like the last month. And I think I have a stack of like $4,000 worth of just $1 to $5 cards that I keep setting aside just because I'm so addicted to the treasure hunt of bulk and how much I know it is worth to do. But I know I have to find that balance of doing the bulk, but also doing the things that's going to, kind of make my business a little more fruitful. How do you decide what you're going to focus on and what you're going to open when it comes to juggling multiple games, A, and B, when it comes to you having a job and a family, you probably have more limited time than I do or some others out there. So how do you best use the time that you have to focus on everything that you have to do in the card business?
Yeah, I've honestly had to develop kind of a loose priority list, kind of almost like a building blocks kind of scenario of like A, B, C on top of each other, because there's not enough time in the day. I mean, you probably feel this too. Just like if you work outside of doing TCG, you don't have enough time, and if you try to throw content in there, you definitely don't have enough time to get everything done that you need to, especially if you're grinding bulk. So what I've done is just priority tiered it, and basically the top priority is always the highest dollar slash highest return item. So I just prioritize it by monetary, kind of what's going on. So if I buy a collection like this collection I just bought, there are specific cards in that collection that need to be listed first, and need to move faster. And I set, and it's hard because I love the bulk game too. Like the sifting treasure hunt process it's enthralling. You know what I mean? Like it is something else. So I set that down, and I have to pivot and just force myself to focus on the most important thing, and then go from there. That has been really tested this last week with Strixhaven though, because there is just there I've had an increased volume of orders, and so I've kind of had to like even set aside listing, which is hard to do because you need to be listing all the time just to focus on order fulfillment because I've just had so many orders. So that has
Yeah.
been a hard pivot for me there.
Have you ever thought about, are you at the metrics that you could have direct, and is that something that you've ever thought of doing?
Yeah, honestly, I'm super excited that you are indirect and you're creating content. I have hit that threshold a couple times, for sure. But with my business how it's structured, especially with the different arms of it, I'm not always within that like threshold of sales on TCG Player. Um, but anyways, long story short is I have always kind of been agnostic towards TCG Player direct. I've kind of been on the outside. Definitely something I'll consider in the future, but I'm not overly ambitious to jump into it just because of the additional fees. I know that you're hiring basically TCG Player as your first employee. That's going to increase, volume sales. It sounds awesome, but I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, it's definitely got its pluses and minuses. I mean, the fees can be a problem, and that's where, if you don't have a lot of time, and this is something I'm learning right now, and I'll be talking in the future, is a lot of the really low value bulk that I have that was moving is moving, but not as at the same velocity, because when you're on direct, you don't have a choice of making it lower than 40 cents. If it's direct eligible, it's
Yeah.
40 cents. So like the reverse hollows and the hollows and the playables, those are still going perfectly fine. But the really low valuable stuff, not as much. So I am staying on direct because I love it. And now that I'm going to be getting into more Magic the Gathering things, I actually have a buddy coming over today. We're doing like a couple cases of Strixhaven collectors, and not collectors, of set boosters, some collectors. It's so much better for Magic. So once I start getting that kind of churning, the Pokemon side of things might change. But that's a good thing, because you never know, just because you're doing something one week doesn't mean you can't change it the next. And
Yeah.
that was the next question I want to ask you is, sometimes when you are doing and building something for yourself, you feel like you get in such a routine that it's like you don't want to change anything that you're doing. You don't want to upset the status quo. You might get a couple of weeks where you have less sales, but ultimately you go into business to be your own boss. And that's what I've always wanted to be. I don't want to explain to anybody why I'm doing something. If I want to make a decision, I can, and I can enroll with, the pluses or minuses of doing that. What has your experience been in being able to just really say, hey, you know what? I'm taking a chance. We're going to figure this out. If it doesn't, we'll figure it out anyway. And what is maybe one of those chances that you took and you really succeeded, and one of those chances that you took and maybe, if learned a valuable lesson from?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Probably the best chance I took was starting the stream and the rip and ship. Um, I had always known that I enjoy being in a live setting, chatting with people, having that connection. But I started that super early. And so I think it was risky because that was an additional arm of like having some sort of product to rip. And that's locking up capital. If I don't make any sales for the packs this week, is that locking up too much capital that can't be put towards additional bulk lots or collection buys? So that was definitely a risk. But throughout the journey, it's been a beautiful thing. Starting my website and everything, that's a risk too. That costs money to maintain. I'm so happy I did that. So that's been a super big win, the website. On the flip side is I jumped into Magic too fast. I had started really generating sales with Pokemon. Things were going really well with the bulk, some small collection buys here and there. And you hear Rob, you hear some of these other people talk about Magic, and I had just joined the is it called the GAP program as well, Growth Acceleration Program. I did
Yes.
that through TCG Player. Super. Any new sellers, that's a free thing that you can jump into and have someone kind of to talk to from the TCG Player side. That was cool. But I remember hearing that like, oh, Magic the Gathering is the top selling TCG on the platform. A lot of successful sellers do it. I was like, I need to do Magic right now. I need to do it yesterday. So I kind of like FOMO'd myself into it. I got really excited about it. I found like a 20,000 card lot in a neighboring city, and I jumped into it immediately. I got all of it, and I spent 6 hours sifting through it. Not really, because Magic is hard to know what has value, what doesn't have value. You can't just look at shiny, cool card and say that's a good card. That's not how that works. Sometimes that shiny, cool card is worth less than the non-hollow variant of that card.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, so I jumped in. I did like 6 hours of sorting and sifting. And as I went to start comping everything after having it all set, sorted, because I was ready, I was diving in. It hit me very quickly that it was a sifted lot of 20,000 cards. Nothing was worth over 15 cents. Probably had been run through a fizz batch or something like
Sure.
that. And I got cooked. There was already so much sunk cost time into it. I felt pretty defeated in that moment, to be honest. And so what I did is I licked my wounds and I sold it off at about half the cost I bought it for locally to someone that wanted to do like popper decks and stuff like that. The guy was super excited. Oh my gosh. He bought all of it. And I moved forward. I set aside some art, like cool art cards and stuff that I found in there just to remember that experience by. So those are like chilling in my room as one of my first big major losses there.
Yeah, I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but when it comes to the prioritization of what you list and like the higher dollar, lower value stuff, how often do you actually have that conversation with yourself or how long do you wait to move something where you may potentially lose? Because I know for me, and again, this is one of the reasons why I love bulk is I will always, if I have the money, I will buy it knowing that if in a week I can't do anything with it, I can just sell it right next to the next person for almost the same, if not more than I paid. But there are situations where in the one or two vending things I've done or singles where the opportunity comes to get out from under it and maybe you break even or lose a little. But even though you have a loss in the moment, recouping that money to put something to put towards something else could be a positive in the long run. So do you have that internal struggle of when to pull the trigger on taking a loss or something to get a positive at it? Or what's the threshold for that? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of people, they're always trying to hold out for the last, the maximum profit on everything, the absolute last dollar. And that, my opinion, can be a detriment. And I wonder how you handle that aspect of the business.
Yeah. When it comes to like singles, I have learned kind of the hard way that you just need a list almost immediately. Like if I buy something at 75% of market, 80% of market, and there's room for some margin, I need to list that bad boy and it needs to get out there and sold. Another big major L I took, the first $1,000 lot or collection I bought was like this huge Sword and Shields, like trainer gallery collection. It was amazing. Like it was so cool. The couple I bought it from, super big collectors and super excited about their collection. So I got that in and I was so focused on stuff I was doing in the stream and some other like things that were happening in the business. It literally sat for like 3 weeks. Like I looked at it and I was like, this is super cool. And guess what? Like it was right at the like peak of the first boom. Things had started coming down. And so by the time I got around to listing those, I think I may have barely broken even. I may have recouped the cost that was in it. But I've learned through that experience that I need to list those higher dollar cards as fast as possible. And that's one thing I'm struggling. I just bought this really cool childhood collection of like mid-era, like reverse hollows. Like this is Unseen
Cool.
Forces.
Yeah.
And this is something that needs to be listed because mid-era is super hot right now. I bought it at super hot prices. And so if I keep letting it sit too long, I will be regretting that decision.
So I know you mentioned earlier that you have a rip and ship, and we actually discussed a little bit of that before we went live. Do you think that there is a point where the barrier to entry to starting a rip and ship is going to get to the point where it's not worth it? Because with the amount of people, trading cards in general have a low barrier of entry. I think that's why a lot of people like to try it, like to do it, because you don't need a degree, you don't need 8 years of school, you can literally go buy cards, sell cards, and that's it. And now that we're a few years removed from COVID times when it wasn't necessary, it was getting popular, but it's not to the point where it is now. I know I've fallen in the trap of thinking about starting one, but it's like there's so many people doing it. Getting product is an absolute disaster that I don't even know if I want to try. Do you think we're getting to an inflection point when it comes to online breaking where it's going to maybe crash or something negative is going to happen with it? Or do you think it's going to just be a never ending ride of just straight up, and it doesn't matter how many people are out there, that's always going to be something that's going to be able to done no matter size, stature, or your imprint on socials in general?
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish towards streaming, honestly, and online sales. But with that, I'm about to say extremely bullish statements, but I want to caveat that with the fact that like a correction in the market could absolutely massively impact streaming rip and ships in pretty big ways. Um, so with that in mind, that I don't think it's up to the right forever for streaming. I do think that online selling is still in its infancy for us, especially in North America. I think that if you look at other markets like China and other places, online selling is crazy huge. I mean, and there's like farmers selling apples from their trees, like in a live setting, right? So
Wow.
we are not saturated in that market yet. I think we're just getting started in what that potentially has for us in the States and in North America. And so I am extremely bullish towards it. But for new people jumping in, I think streaming is a very attractive thing to look at because you see the reels and the highlights online. It's just like watching Deep Pocket Monster and seeing, you know, the different packs that are opened and wanting to jump into that type of content creation. You have to weigh that risk because there is a lot of you have to have some sort of inventory. And if you don't have a built-in, if you're not building an audience and a brand online through social media, YouTube, and stuff like that, then you're kind of cornered into using a platform like a Drip or a Whatnot that has a fee structure. And I talked to Whatnot a little bit back in the day as I was considering it. And one of the things they said to me that immediately turned me off of it was to be successful on the platform, you need to be live almost every single day, and you need to be auctioning, and you need to be trying to rip packs. All of that costs money. It costs family time for me being live every day. It costs, you know, consistently being able to source, whether that's like low end singles to auction, and then you got the packs. And so for me getting started, I had very low capital. And so that's why I needed something that had low barrier to entry in terms of capital, but high percentage, you know, returns, bulk, beautiful. But I would caution a beginner jumping into it unless you plan on developing an audience and a brand online for 6 months and then leveraging the community and audience that you build to start some sort of like live stream experience for your people to participate in. And don't make it just about selling. Have a good time, you know, connect with people, and then have the selling arm of it optional and start to slowly build that up.
I think that's why I really like your rip and strip in particular, because and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the groups or I'm going to say the 4-letter word communities I was part of back in COVID days and so on, it was very much that. It was not a let's see how many packs I can blast out of here tonight. It was almost like you're just hanging in a room full of friends. You know, you're going through packs at a casual pace. You're not, you know, going through the first 11 cards just to get to the last. I mean, I don't know how many times on Whatnot, you know, someone will flip a pack backwards, pull the 3 to the top, boom, bang, boom. And it's like cattle. And I feel like that is a niche that a lot of people who might be getting started, should pay attention to when getting into breaking, because, you know, it's such a, I know you said it's not at its peak yet, and I would agree with you, but there are so many people that are trying to do it. You have to differentiate yourself somehow. And if you can't do it with pricing, you got to do it with the demeanor in which you do it and how you handle yourself. And not only that, and not to dump on some of these other platforms too much, but reputation. Breaking and doing online, any kind of online selling is like a scarlet letter. You do one thing wrong and you are forever branded, and it is almost impossible to come back from that. So with you doing your own thing, I think that's fantastic. I know sometimes I've been in your stream where there's like 20 or 30 people. I've seen when you've been in your stream where there's like 3 or 4, and consistency is the most important, not only in anything, but especially in that, because when you see all these streams where people have like 50, 60, 100, 200 people and they're just clamoring for packs, and you try to do your own thing and you maybe don't have as many viewers, you can't really use that as a metric because you're ultimately building something. Now, I'm not asking you to necessarily condemn or push anyone towards a particular platform or not, but what would your advice to be to someone who is maybe thinking about going to a platform that might have a questionable appearance in the hobby versus really just kind of going low and slow on starting their own thing? What would your advice be on which avenue you should go down, and anything else that might accompany that?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a big proponent of crock pot meals. You know what I mean? Like you just like prep the meal, it slowly cooks throughout the day, and then you have something delicious, you know, to eat for dinner. And how I would relate that to your question is not just in yummy meals, but
Yeah.
also I think when it comes to building a business and building a presence online, I think that slow cooking it is honestly probably the best option for anybody. Um, you know, some people will post their first 2 videos, get 100,000 views, 1 million views, and all of a sudden they have 20,000 followers. That happens every single day, you know. But for me, and what I would recommend personally is I would recommend that slow cook kind of approach to building your brand and your presence online. It goes back to what we talked about with content too. You got to kind of get the reps in. I don't remember. I saw it on Instagram, but the person said to be good at anything, you must first allow yourself to suck at it. And if you're just getting started, you need to allow yourself to suck a little bit. And that would be my honest recommendation. I have nothing against the platforms, honestly. I know that like all the videos, you know, you can name your favorite YouTube drama channel. They've covered the drama related to scams. And I would just say like, to be a business owner, you have to, if you want to be in business for a long time, you have to have a good set of, you have to have integrity, morals, all that kind of stuff. That's a given. If you don't have that, you're going to get cooked. You're going to be so cooked. But yeah, I would say if you want to stream on Whatnot because it has a built-in audience, that's fine. I went to Tcgplayer for that same reason. It's got built-in eyeballs on it. You know, I'm more likely to make sales on a platform like that. Does it come with some downsides? Absolutely. Every platform does. But if you want to build a brand and a long-term presence, you have to treat platforms more as tools in your belts and not be fully reliant on one. That would be my only caution. Like you don't want to build everything you are around one platform because that platform's not guaranteed to be there tomorrow. I mean, look, Bronze, GameStop is making an offer on eBay. That
Yeah.
means GameStop could own TCGplayer. That sounds dystopian to me. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I I don't even want to know what their tactics are with that, and if it did, I don't even want to know how that's going to turn out. But yeah, no, that's a good point because I mean, you're right. You're going to suck. You're going to be horrible. You're going to, you're going to have a tough time in the start. And that's when it really tests your mettle, because when you're in those moments, that's when you kind of, blue pill, red pill. Are you going to, at that point, take the easy road and maybe do something a little near dwellish and, play that risk of maybe, Band-Aid fixing it now at the cost of hurting your reputation? Or are you going to go down the more trodden path of just, grind it out, figure it out? And that's something that, I mean, trading card business aside, that's really something you have to just come to grips with, that it's, it's always better to take the long road versus the short path, which actually leads me to my next question, which is eBay. I know I've been following, I think it's probably 3 or 4 weeks now. You've done your eBay series. I've not made it a secret. Not that I hate eBay, but it's just not my preferred platform to sell on, just because of the velocity at which I like to sell things. However, as you mentioned, it is important to be everywhere. And I It's probably going to be live by the time this goes, but I'm blowing up what I have on eBay. I'm starting from zero and really starting to try to get consistent with it and change things up overall. What has your experience been with eBay, and what have been some of the struggles you've had or positives comparing it to TCGplayer, knowing that you, as well as me, have done a lot more damage on TCGplayer versus other sites?
Yeah, absolutely. I just to start off, I love Tcgplayer. The amount of volume and sell through that you have on that platform is unlike any other. So anyways, I love TCGplayer. eBay is awesome. The rumors of you being able to get premium, have a higher floor price, get premiums for cards that would sell for much less on TCGplayer, that's all true. As long as you're strategic about your approach and what you're listing and things like that. From my experience, you can definitely have your own kind of premium there. So the biggest thing I like about eBay is the fact that it's more of a storefront. It's almost like when you go to eBay, you're walking into like a mall, and you can choose to jump in and out of different stores, window shop, and see everything there. And the way that I set up my mannequins and I dress the storefront of my building and the way that I display the cards and everything, that matters on eBay. I don't have that control on Tcgplayer. I'm just a line on the list, and the closer I can get to first page, the more likely I am to make a sell, unless my inventory is deep and all the other things we talk about that drive sales as well. But on eBay is if I have desirable cards that people are looking for, they'll jump into my store and then they'll be like, "Oh, I was interested in this Espeon you have, but you also have this Charmander that I like too, and maybe I'm going to pick up two cards now." And they're not overly concerned that the Charmander maybe they could find it, they could walk, three stores over, walk down this aisle, and then enter this store and find it for $2 cheaper because they're right there in the moment. And so I like that about it. The hard part about eBay is it takes a lot of attention. I think Phantom says this a lot. Always be listing ABLs. That is. I can see it in my metrics. Days that I don't post, I get less eyes on my items, and so the algorithm on eBay definitely promotes listing and constantly being involved in that platform. Um, and they charge you for listing fees after a certain point too. Like eBay has built this beautiful ecosystem to drive as much profit for themselves as possible, and I don't blame them. So
Yeah, I think after doing some deep thought, the big issue that I always had with eBay was just repricing. I think after being a TCGplayer seller for so long and being a pro seller, being able to just set and forget a schedule of repricing my cards every however often I want, and not having that on eBay always made me a little weary. Like I said before, I know you're not going to get every dollar on every card, but if I list a card for $2 on eBay and then it spikes to 10, and then I don't go in there and pay attention to those cards every single day, there's always a chance that you could lose a lot, or vice versa. If it tanks and then you have a card $3 over what it's supposed to go for, and you start going down this road of all these different permutations of positive and negative things that could be happening, that I ultimately was just like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with that. I'm just going to go to a TCGplayer where I can set it and forget it all. But just as much as I've preached about bulk and how much it makes sense, and all these people who sell bulk wouldn't do it if it didn't work, I kind of had the moment of self-reflection of, well, if all these people are having success with bulk on eBay and all these people are doing these great things on eBay, maybe I need to change how I'm looking at what I'm doing and give it a shot, which is why I'm blowing it up. And we're going to start chronicling that. And I'm excited to see how it goes. I've thought about maybe, and I'd be curious on how you kind of decide where and when you decide to put on what platforms. Because for me, because I have so much bulk, I've thought maybe like setting a limit on TCGplayer of, once I get to 100 cards of this card, then list the others on eBay. Because ultimately, like you said, they're different marketplaces. So just because I'm selling it for 20 cents on TCGplayer and $1.99 with free shipping on eBay, that's not inherently a bad thing. It's just, you're putting, more ingredients in the pot. If everybody wants some, there's plenty enough for everybody. So how are you deciding what you're putting on what platform, and how important do you think that is, or not important at all when it comes to starting to spread your love around to multiple platforms?
Yeah, I just want to say I hadn't really thought about the repricing thing, so that's like you've got me thinking now about
Yeah.
how I want to approach that because I just kind of like pick the price and leave it right now on eBay. But that's really good. Actually, I need to think about that. But yeah, to your question though, I'm a very simple person. Okay, I like to boil down my decision making processes to like the most binary yes or no decision making as possible because it allows me to move faster in life. And
Sure.
so my criteria for listing on eBay right now is it a popular Pokemon? If yes, get listed on eBay. Is it a cute Pokemon? If yes, listed on eBay. Another one I can show you right here actually is now that I have this vintage like mid-era lot, like is it a Komiya? Is it a Mori listed on eBay? You know, like so a couple illustrators, is it cute and is it popular? Like that's what I do.
That's actually a pretty solid. I never thought about that. I mean, I have had like some popular Pokemon and stuff, but I don't know if you've ever done this. I'd be curious what you, because I'll go on last solds for eBay, right? For instance, I've got this giant stack of like 300 hollows from Prismatic Evolutions, of all the evolutions. I just set them aside. And when I go on eBay last solds and I go, okay, what's the last sold on a Jolteon hollow base from? And then you'll see some like pick your card listings, and then you'll see like 3 in the last month sell. That's probably the other big thing that kind of turns me off on selling some of this stuff, because when you see Phantom and all these guys and they have like these stacks of 20, 30 cards of all these random reverses, it's like, okay, well, it works. But also when I go and look at all the last solds of some of these random hollow rares, it's like, what am I missing? I think that's probably the hardest thing I have going for me with eBay. But it's not going to stop me from giving it a solid shot. I mean, I know consistency has not been my thing there. And as you said, if you're not listing every day, you're going to have a rough time. And I know that's kind of what's tanked my store now. So, once I blow it up, I know it's probably going to take me even more. But you go from there. So I meant to ask you about your website too. With the two sites of Tcgplayer and eBay, what is it that you throw on your own website? And do you have like flyers and stuff that you put in your packages to drive towards your site? Because I know at one point Tcgplayer was kind of against that, but now they're kind of not. But it's like one of those things where as long as no one reports it, who cares? But how do you treat your own website in that factor? Because obviously you're paying like literally no fees with the exception of processing fees or whatever the
Right.
site charges for like a monthly subscription.
Yeah, so when I started my website, I wanted to do the Poke&E route of just loading it up with Japanese boxes and stuff like that. And then the stream started doing well, and so a lot of my Japanese boxes were being sold by in the rip and ship is basically how that got started because I couldn't afford English at the time. I didn't have enough capital, and that's kind of pivoted now that the Japanese market's going up. I'm now almost only doing English now, so it's kind of a cool transition evolution in my business. But yeah, I list a couple sealed items over there. If I want to sell, like I have some Sword and Shield ETBs. I actually just pulled them down because they weren't selling. I will list some of those like for a little bit of discount for market price. But I don't. To your point about advertising, I don't advertise my site at all, and that's intentional right now. It's intentional because I don't have stock to keep it stocked from a like sealed standpoint. And so my website, the utility it brings to my business is number one, foremost is the rip and ship. It does a lot for me there, just having a platform where I can sell without any type of additional fees. Like if I'm able to buy packs at 70% of market, which almost never happens, by the way, if I'm able to get a sweet deal, I'm able to run like exclusive deals to my email list subscribers. And there's like I've done things like close to MSRP nights for certain sets, or like $2 off of Ascended Heroes. It all depends on what I'm buying at in order to be able to do that sort of thing.
Sure.
And then the other side of it that's been really cool is I've been able to sell collections. Like my website provides this like online selling platform that insulates me, protects me as a buyer or seller, and insulates the other side too, because there's now like an official like transaction. There's an official like um, there's an official order created for that, and it's not like a Zelle transaction.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've speaking to Godzilla, I don't want to get too distracted here, but I had someone reach out to me from Australia, and they were like, "I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I'm trying to collect X, Y, and Z card." They sent me a list of like 90 Godzilla cards, some bulk, some high end chases, and they're like, "Can I buy these from you?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So I structured the deal on my website, and it created such an easy way for that transaction to happen, to where both of us felt safe and confident in that transaction.
That is awesome. Were you able to knock out the whole list, or was it a good chunk? Or
I had like 90 out of 98 cards that they wanted, and that was for set two. And then this person's so nice. When set three rolled around, we did another deal for similar kind of level of stuff. So pretty crazy there that connection kind of was made online, and we've made multiple transactions. That was my first ever international order too, which is super stressful, filling out all the
I bet.
additional information. So, but it went well. UPS didn't lose my item, and they got it there.
That actually brings me to probably one of our last questions. I know we're kind of getting close to our time limit here. I know I don't have a lot of problem finding bulk and stuff because I've been doing it for a while, right? I've talked several times about how I have a few stores around me that don't deal with it at all, and I've been buying from them long enough at rates that are fair, and I cause like the least what's the word? Friction. Like I just come in there, I give them money, they give me stuff, I leave. Do I overpay for some of it? Sometimes, yes, but over the bridge of time, it's going to be fine. There's plenty of people on Facebook that I've dealt with now for years where I don't pay $20 per thousand for regular commons and non-commons. I refuse to do it. The highest I'll go is 15, but I usually stick at 10 because I think anyone knows with bulk, it's time intensive, and I'm not paying up the premium to buy it, knowing what goes into it. And a lot of times, someone will say, I don't want to because I can get a higher price, but then they come back to me because the guy that they were talking to, takes 2 weeks to get a hold of them and they can't find anybody and whatever. When it comes to like this Australian gentleman that you sold these cards to, how do you go about your deals, especially online, because that can be a problem when it comes to sourcing things? What are the things that you keep an eye out for as far as whether something's trustworthy or not? And or do you just throw all inhibition to the wind, and if you see something you go for it and you let it falter if it may be? But is it more of a shooting fish in the barrel type of situation where it doesn't matter how many people you ask, or do you have a very specific formula for who you reach out to and who you try to make a deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's really cool about building a brand and content is a lot of times people will reach out to me. So like a lot of times deals will happen not because I'm pursuing them, but because someone sees a video or sees something that I put out there and they'll reach out to me. So that's something that's super powerful about creating content. But for me, it's mostly a vibe based. And a lot of it comes down to the back and forth communication. So if I'm dealing with somebody, actually, I have a story I can share actually of someone locally that I had a bad shady experience with, and I was like, no more. Like I will not do business with this person ever again. I can share that in just a second. But yeah, it's vibe based, depending on how the conversation goes back and forth. And this, like the foundations of business, like honoring when you shake the hand, when you shake the hand, when you do the deal, you shake the hands back and forth, the deal's done. That is a good business transaction. It does not matter what percentage under market you bought it for or over market. What matters is that two business owners shook hands and the deal is done. I had an experience on Facebook Marketplace where we shook hands, we did the deal. They reached out to me with an additional deal, and they basically backtracked on what they had previously sold me and told me I needed to pay up for the next thing because they took a loss. And so that to me says, hey, we negotiated back and forth. You said you were okay with X price and that I was okay, meeting you in the middle at Y price. We shook hands. That was a business transaction. Nobody lost out because we're both business owners. We both agreed on a price. And so that was an example of like, that type of communication, like I owe you something because of a previous transaction I did. I don't owe you nothing. and so I will never do business with you again. And that's unfortunate because I had bought from that person multiple times. It had been good up until that point, but the moment the vibe check goes, the moment the vibes are off, I'm like, I'm out. I don't want to. I'm totally out. But with the guy from Australia, that's another like advantage of having the website, because would I have trusted that transaction if that went through PayPal, friends and family? Would I have done that through Zelle? No. Having some sort of insulation for that type of collection, sell and buy was really nice, and so that gives me some confidence there as well.
That's actually a pretty good way of going about it. Cause yeah, I mean, all the time, past the vibe check to a certain point. And I think that's important is when you get that feeling in your gut of something's going wrong. I don't know in my life the number of times that's been wrong. So it's like, you're not married to these people. You don't owe them anything. If you start feeling that way, or you give them a shot and they, it's okay to say no and walk away. There's always going to be another deal for another day. I know it's going to be, I've been guilty myself. There'd be a really sick bulk deal of like tens of thousands of cards, and it's like, I really want it, and it's just the sniff test isn't making it. So
exactly,
you just kind of have to walk away. But I think that's about it for me. I always like to offer, and if you don't, that's not a problem. I always like to offer to my guest, any topic that I didn't bring up, or any general maybe topic or question that you had or you wanted to talk about before we say goodbye to the people.
I've got two quick questions, if you don't mind. So I wanted to ask, what do you collect? Like, are you a collector? I know that you have Psyduck featured on your branding and everything, but tell me about Bronzgod the Collector.
I am a collector at heart. I am a completionist at heart. Most of the games that I play are your Banjo-Kazooies, your 80 different types of collectibles. You have to get them all. That's actually my master set thing I've been working on. I started getting into it at Scarlet and Violet. And that's actually something I've been struggling with, because when I was talking about the kind of decent stuff I have sitting on the side, it's really hard to run a business and collect for yourself. And as I was filing some cards away, I think I probably have, and this is not a gloat or anything, there's probably $6,000 to $10,000 of just illustration rares and special illustration rares in those binders that I know in my heart of hearts I need to probably take out and sell or set a limit. But it's hard for me to do, which is again why I kind of go down the bulk route a lot of times. But I love collecting, and I honestly feel like with the way things are now, with so many people getting into this space selling, which there's nothing wrong with, morally in a card way, I don't want to just be another person selling. Like it's almost like, it sounds like gatekeeping, but I feel like if everybody sold, then no one would collect. Right.
Sure,
so I try to toe that line of collecting a little bit for myself while trying to do the business, but I've recognized that is hard, and I might have to draw a line at some point. But back in the day, like same as you, I'm a 90s kid. When Pokemon first came out, Psyduck was my guy. Everybody would always give me their Psyduck cards when at the shop. I mean, before a hurricane came in, I remember 96 or 97, I had a 5-row, and that 5-row was, I mean, first edition base set, first edition Team Rocket. Like I probably had a stack this big of just like Topps Chrome. The Black Star promos, one where he's like all confused in the pond. I probably had like 300 of them, and they all got ruined in a thing, and it made it was rough. But yeah, ultimately, man, collecting is the hobby, and I love doing it. And for me, it's just right now, it's figuring out the best way to tackle it while I'm doing this. Because ultimately, I thought about this the other day, it's not like it was in the 90s before eBay. I might have to spend a little more money down the road to get these things, but you're always going to be able to find what you want, like pretty much from here on going forward. So the FOMO of collecting is definitely something that I think everyone suffers from, and I know I do too. But yeah, man, collecting is fun, and I look forward to the day where I get to do bigger and better things and collect bigger and better stuff.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, I have a whole list of things. If I ever get pokey rich, if I get rich off of
Yeah.
cardboard, you guys, there will be signs. I will have 5
What's
boxes
the
of
first thing on your
Piplups.
list? The first thing on my list,
uh,
outside of Pokemon, out of Psyduck, is PSA 10 Mewtwo. That is one of my grails. I love that card,
okay.
and I want it. What's your grail?
Man, I have a personal collection goal right now of collecting all the English Piplups. Any cards that Piplups cameoed in, all of that kind of stuff. I have the binder picked out. I'm a binder guy. I'm not much of a grader yet. So yeah, Piplup's my guy. I also love Hollow Energy. So if you will see it, I will have 5 row boxes sorted by set and by energy type of Hollow Energies. 151 is my favorite with the swirls. And then I'll have Piplups. One of the biggest splurges I've ever done in my business is I bought 50 when Inferno X came out. I bought 50 Piplup IRs from my Japanese supplier. And the guy was like, "Are you gonna grade these? Like, what's your play?" And I was like, "Nah, bro, I'm putting them in my closet." Like, what do you mean, man? I just
Oh,
need
that's
50
great.
of them. I need an army of Piplups here. So yeah, that's. Oh, I love Riftbound. I will Riftbound and Gundam. I will own cases of every set, and I will have an acrylic display of every box that they
That's
release. I
what's
hope
up.
those TCGs are around for a long time.
I hope so too, man. Riftbound's got some, I never got into League, but I mean, there's obviously a market out there for it, and I don't. There's no reason for me to not want to see it succeed. So I hope it succeeds for you and anyone who also wants to collect. What was the other question you had? I mean, now you got
Yeah.
me curious.
Sorry. Yeah. You're probably better off for not getting into League. That
Yeah.
has sunk so many hours of my life. My other question was gaming related. I know you mentioned video games, being a completionist. What's your go-to genre of video games that you enjoy? And maybe that's changed now, that you're a little bit more seasoned and doing the business, but let me know.
Um, Fallout is probably one of my favorite game series of all time. Because I don't like my big problem is when I start playing games, I don't finish them a lot. So having a game where there's a story,
Same.
but I don't have to really like do anything, I can just kind of do whatever I want. Um, I used to play Magic competitively, like big time competitively, to where like every weekend we would go to Grand Prix, RC. I mean, anywhere. I actually have a couple of like top 16s, top 32s under my belt. Nothing crazy. I did get
That's cool.
I think I have like two second place like states finishes from back in the day. So in my spare time, like at night, I'm kind of like Hearthstone is like my go-to because it's like more battlegrounds than anything else. But I get that itch, but I don't like playing Magic anymore because like Commander, I don't like Commander playing it.
Mm.
Did you ever play StarCraft back in the day, like StarCraft 2,
Oh yeah,
StarCraft 1?
so bad at it, bro. But I played Protoss.
I consider I consider Commander as, for anyone who doesn't know, StarCraft used to have a lot of modded games, and there was one where it was called No Rush Map Max 20 minutes. And the whole goal was it was a 3-on-3, and you could not attack anybody until all the sprites were taken up to where you couldn't make any more units or 20
Whoa.
minutes went by. And that's how I feel like Commander is if you want to play a game of Commander and you're not playing it casually for the most part, you're like the worst person in the world. And I know that might have to do with other different play groups and this, that, the other, but it's like I play to win. I play competitively so long that I want to win. I want to get the W. And it sets off a train reaction when you're playing with other people that want to play casually to where you're going to be the first one out. And it's like, all right, well, what's the point? So that kind of ruined it for me. The land system, as much as I love Magic, it's just the percentage chance of winning after you have to take a hit like that is hard. And every time I
Yeah.
go to jump back into like Magic Online, and I'll play a draft, and then I'll get like hosed one round. It's like, okay, well, that was enough for this month, so we'll wait until next month. But yeah, Fallout's great. I'm trying to get into like actually doing a gaming channel, which I've said now for a month, where I kind of get to like casually play through stuff that I haven't, because there's so many things I haven't played through that I always like to watch or I've seen played and I haven't, which is weird nowadays, where most of the games that I like I've never played, but I've watched a playthrough of from beginning to end. What about you? You have a big gaming artillery. I know you
Yeah.
said League. You're deep in the League.
I'm still I'm not as deep in the league as I was, but I still like to. I even play ranked. I like to get gold, so I get unlock the skin for the season. That's kind of what something you get. And then so I play league on and off. I can't get away from it as much as I try. And there's also a game mode in there called ARAM, similar to what you're saying about StarCraft. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be this like super casual, fun experience, but every so often you run into like a team of sweaties on the other side, and they play super. Like I like to just if I'm playing that game mode, I like to just face smash my way into the enemy team and do what I can to have fun.
Yeah.
But sometimes they'll play so strategically, and it makes me want to like a ranked game of League of Legends can make me rage, but an ARAM, a casual game mode where someone's trying to like win strategically, that makes me want to like smash my keyboard like Tyler won or whatever
Yeah.
back in the day. But video games wise, I'm a big JRPG fan. The first video game I ever completed on my own was Final Fantasy IX, PlayStation 1, 4 discs, just going through them. So I have this huge soft spot for Final Fantasy JRPGs. They were a big instrumental part of my upbringing. Also love anime, Japanese culture, stuff like that as well. Um, but these days, I have a huge backlog of games that I can't get to, but I keep buying them on sale on Steam because I want to play them someday. So I just picked up, was it Crimson Desert? That's
Yeah.
a big open world game that came out. I want to check
Yep.
that out. I love Skyrim. It gives me those. In Skyrim, I never even completed the story. I just like I took a left where they told me to take a right, and then like 60 hours later, I was like, what do I do? And I was like, I'm at a point where I'm ready to put it down. But I had so much fun in between those
Yeah.
times. So
I knew I had a problem with Skyrim when I I would get to the point where I literally I remember one day I spent one night, it was like 4 or 6 hours. I think I spent 6 hours just traveling to different towns, exploiting the crafting glitch just to get money.
oh my gosh.
And after like
That's
6 or 7 hours of just crafting and selling, and I had it mapped out to like how long in game time had to go before the store restocked. And I was like, what am I even doing right now? I'm not even playing a game. I'm just like trading fake things for fake gold and not even like enjoying anything. So that's when I knew I had a problem and I had to set it down. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
amazing.
Well, before we leave, man, I really appreciate your time. If you want to, throw out your socials, I have them all in the description. But if you want to tell the folks where to find you and where to watch you and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So YouTube is always great. I post regularly over there, kind of long form content videos, just documenting, chronicling my journey through the cardboard life and my business journey. I do participate in some drama and some clickbait from every now and then, so just be warned. And then Instagram as well. You can find me over there. And then subscribe to Bronzgod, guys.
Yeah, that's what's talking about. Hey, man, I think you're not doing YouTube right if you don't participate in a little bit of the clickbaity drama stuff. And I'm actually looking forward to getting into some of that stuff too, because it's fun to talk about. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you, man, for stopping by again. And that was this episode of Sunday Morning Conversation. So we'll see you in the next one. Hope you guys have a great day and take care. Bye.
Peace.